Hello, Brother Monroe here. Welcome back to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. To Dreadnoughts? Can't even talk today. But I am joined by our resident naval historiographer, Dreadnoughts. And what ship are we going to be building today?
We rebuilt the Strasbourg, so because we're
Mm-hmm.
gluttons for punishment, we've decided we're going to try and do the other all-forward armament ship of the period, get it
Yep.
all over and done with. So we're going to build HMS Nelson.
Fantastic. I absolutely love this ship. So,
hmm
well, let's start off with the basics. What was her kind of draft and beam? Because we have access to this now, so we should probably
Yeah. So
start on that.
so she's supposed to be set near enough as makes no difference. 710 foot long,
Okay, so
and
we're a little bit
106 foot in beam. But
160
so we're a bit
beam.
over that at the moment, but
Mm.
I think that's because our displacement is currently
Yeah,
almost 50,000 tons.
it's slightly larger, Nelson. So what was
Yeah.
her actual displacement?
Well, ostensibly, she's a 35,000 tonner, and they did do an awful lot to try and fit into that when it came to constructing her.
Mm-hmm.
Her full load displacement was a bit over that.
Mm.
Almost 38,000 tons, but then you find this with pretty much all of the treaty era battleships, because you have standard displacement.
Yes.
Before it was normal displacement, then they crafted this very specific standard displacement to measure it by,
Mm.
but that's not full load displacement.
No.
So given that we know, at least so far, that Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought seems to deal better with full load displacement,
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
we're going to be at 38,000,
Okay.
and see where we go from there.
All right. So 38,000 is actually the minimum
Mhm.
for the hull.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just as well.
which
Yeah, because I
which
mean
is
it's an N3G3 class
yeah,
Origin hull, so,
yeah.
and it's actually not too bad. I mean, we're only 2 foot longer, considerably beamier, but
So
we
what
can.
we can try and fiddle with that. So was it
Yeah, I
100
think
and something?
6 foot, 106 foot.
106. So what happens if we minimize it? That can't be right.
No, it's not
Okay,
changed.
I don't think those change.
We've also got 67 foot draft, so we ain't going anywhere.
No, we're not. But as we were talking about last time, I think that
Mm,
draft is measured from here and not
from here,
from
yeah.
here. Did she have a particularly deep draft at all?
Not particularly. I mean, it's just over 30 foot, but it's not anything to particularly to write home about on a battleship.
Yeah, we'll
So I think we
leave
put the
that
beam up to
standard.
normal,
Yeah.
and see where we go from here.
Okay. So
We can always try and thin it out a bit if we find we've actually got the space for it.
yeah, we can kind of judge it by the look of it as well.
Yeah.
What about speed then? How fast
So
was she?
speed, ostensibly 23 knots.
Okay.
But the thing is, her whole form was derived in a large part from the G3 battle cruiser, which is, unsurprising why we're using that hull as a base. And the G3s were probably the most hydrodynamically optimized ship designs of their period.
Hmm.
They were optimized to within an inch of their lives by the Admiralty, because they wanted to get absolute maximum possible speed whilst retaining a vessel that had a good amount of protection and weaponry.
Yeah.
So when they were downscaling the design to get, well, what would become the O3 design, which would then become the Nelson, they kept a lot of that optimization, and it showed, because when at push came to shove, like in, say, the Chase of Bismarck, Rodney turned out to be capable of a fair old turn of speed that was quite surprising to everyone, especially considering that at the time that she was sent after Bismarck, she'd been on her way to America to get her engines replaced because they were almost worn out. But this is one of the things you have to remember when it comes to steam turbines and such on ships. Unless something has physically broken, having a worn out engine doesn't preclude you actually being able to put out a stupid amount of power.
Yeah.
All it means is that if you do try and put out stupid amounts of power, things are very likely to break.
Yeah.
And if you're running things at a certain steam pressure, and so forth, you may not typically get out the same amount of speed you got before. So, it's kind of like, with an old car, you might need a lot more power to run at, say, 70 on a motorway than you did before.
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that it's an old car doesn't necessarily mean you still can't do like 120 if you absolutely needed to.
Especially if you know that, it's scheduled for a new engine and
Yeah.
as soon as you're done. So, yeah, you might as well slam your foot down. So, I know that. So, what speed would you say that she would actually probably best represented in the game with?
Well, I think 23 knots is probably for the minute.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how we go with our displacement, but
All right.
for the minute, it's probably the best one to stick with, because any other measures we know that they slightly exceeded it at that speed on trials, but kind of something like how well did they do, especially with Rodney chasing down Bismarck at points, it's a subjective thing because obviously nobody was sitting there on a measured dial checking how fast they could actually go.
No, go and send the midshipman out with the line.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing we can do later is we can compare the power that the game is reporting with her actual power, because that's a figure that we can actually look up. What about her... well, we'll do range later, but what about her bulkheads? Were they kind of standard for the time, or were they...
For the time, they were kind of standard, verging on a little bit heavy, but I don't know. Is it? I think it's just standard and maximum. There's no in between, is there?
There's many.
Oh, mini. I'd go with mini. She was one of the tougher ships in terms of her layout.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to find that with one or two other ships in this division.
Okay.
They were because as we said, the previous division you're talking about mostly battle cruisers or much older vessels.
Yeah. And the only one from the previous division coming in is Strasbourg, which has standard bulkheads.
And now we're talking about ships that were designed as battleships. They're designed to take a bit of a punishment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, quarters normal as well, obviously.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. So oil, 3 like the other Royal Navy ships.
Yeah. She's getting access to pretty much the best oil.
And
then turbines 2. Balanced boilers.
What about auxiliary systems? Did you have
it's
batteries?
Still, no, it's still aux 2 diesels. Shaft 2, semi-balanced rudder. And to represent her accurately, I'd probably go Electro Hydro 1.
Okay. She's
not the most agile of ships, but she can move when she needs to. Krupp 3 for the armor, because she's a 1920s design, so the only improvement in armor technology that's going to post date her capabilities, which will be represented again by Krupp 4, is going to be the armor developed by the British and the Germans in the 1930s. So that'll be Bismarck.
Yeah, probably going to be pretty standard from now on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be basically Bismarck, Vanguard, King George V are probably the only ones who are going to get Krupp 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, anti-torpedoes, this is interesting because you really want probably anti-torpedo 3, I think, as the best representation, because she's not using her armor belt as a protection, but she had some very interesting anti-torpedo defenses, especially for her time period.
Okay.
It was one of the little cheats that the British put into the treaty.
Was that that using the water for the torpedo defense system?
So they basically managed to exclude usable water from the treaty as a measure of standard displacement, and then by providing pipes and accesses to some of the void spaces in the torpedo defense system, which meant that technically you could use that water for other purposes, it meant that all the water that was built in as part of the anti-torpedo bulkhead system was not counted towards standard displacement.
That's clever.
See, this is how people cheat the treaties. Because technically, like Lexington and Saratoga, the U.S. carriers were blatantly cheating the treaties. But you kind of have 3 ways of cheating. The Americans cheat the treaties by finding something and then claiming that they are following the treaty when they're blatantly not, but there is a clause that would give, like, if the treaty said what they claimed it said, it would give them the displacement that they could use, but it actually doesn't. The British cheat by writing the treaty in such a way that they're technically following it by the letter but not by the spirit. And then the Italians and later the Germans, once they're bound to the treaty requirements by the Anglo-German Naval Treaty, end up cheating by just building heavier, and the Japanese as well, just building heavier ships and flat out lying about it.
Yep. Oh dear me.
So yeah, we've got standard bulkheads, reinforced 1, yeah, fair enough. Anti-flood 2, and then Citadel she's got on all or nothing.
Oh, okay. That must have been quite advanced for the time then.
Yeah, the Americans pioneered it, but the Nelson class, they were the first British ships built with an all or nothing. Obviously, the G3s and N3s were designed with it, and prior to that, Hood still had distributed. So the Nelsons are the introduction for the British for all or nothing, but the Americans have been using it for a while with the standards.
Okay.
But then again, the difference between Nevada, which is the first American standard with the all or nothing, and Nelson is still less than a decade. So.
Yeah.
Right, so
towers. We have a lot of options, but there are basically two different types. There's this one with the round conning tower bridge arrangement and the rangefinder on the top. And then there's a Queen Anne's castle type.
Yes. Which is a bit interesting because Nelson does have a conning tower forward, but she is also the first class of vessel to use the Queen Anne's Mansion style block superstructure. So what do we actually have if we go along the options?
So we've got Advanced Tower 1.
Which doesn't have the conning tower.
And then we've got... Oops. That's the Modern Tower 8.
Right.
That's kind of the divider. The other ones are just kind of... They're all smaller. There are some with a flat back as opposed to a pointed back. I don't know how else to describe it, but some have a kind of
I mean, that's not too bad. The aft segmentation isn't too bad. They've all got tripod masts though, these ones, which is a bit annoying, modern ones.
If we keep going down,
yeah,
we've got this one, which I think is I think they're just resized.
Resized variants
of each other.
The annoying thing is
apart from that
Nelson,
one, which is
Nelson has the forward conning tower, but it's much lower than what all these modern towers are giving us, and the superstructure is much larger. And also all these modern towers are using kind of a semi Queen Anne mansion, but backed with a big tripod mast, which is not realistic. As part of the point of the Queen Anne's Mansion was that you didn't need the tripod mast immediately after the superstructure, because the superstructure was kind of the mast. Although they did have a tripod mast, but it was much further back, which would be on the secondary tower in the game. So I think we're going to have to look at an advanced tower for the main tower.
Okay.
So
and then we have, well, I think they're just resized. So we've got the 1, the 2, and the 3.
Now interestingly, these advanced towers do have this tripod mast aft. Now that you see, we've got a much more accurate actual tower, but we're still dealing with all these tripods, which is irritating.
Yeah, so the real one wouldn't have all this stuff here.
No, and the aft section of the modern towers is closer to realistic. So what have we got for modern?
So that would be.
Where was the other one? What was modern 8? I think.
That's modern 8.
No, that's
a second
not right.
rangefinder back here.
No, that's not right. Which one was the modern? Maybe modern tower in 5 enhanced. What's that one do? So that's kind of most of the way. See, this is annoying in that the aft section is probably the closer to what you'd expect, but the superstructure is so much smaller It really isn't. It won't look like an Nelson. Let's go back to Modern 8. So what's the difference in size of the superstructure from Modern 8? That's not that much. What about Modern 6? Oh no, I don't like that. I think we're going to have to do a coin toss between Modern 5 Enhanced, which has more of the. I mean, it's got a conning tower, period, and the section after the superstructure is much more historical.
Yeah.
But the superstructure itself is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Or the advanced tower, which the superstructure is going to look historically a little bit more accurate, but the area aft isn't, and it's not going to have any conning tower. So we've not got we haven't got a.
Well, where were the secondaries placed?
So the secondaries are all in twin turrets aft either side.
Yeah.
Well aft of the superstructure. And then her AA battery, at least her original AA battery, is actually positioned on that kind of lozenge shape we have on the Modern Tower 5 Enhanced.
Well, perhaps you should go with this one then, because these kind of expect you to put the KG5 style secondaries.
Yeah, okay, let's go with this then. I'm not happy about. Okay, notes to the developer: we need a proper Nelson style Queen Anne Mansions block.
Yeah, we'll send them a note. Okay, we have a lot of choice in rear towers from just a stick.
Ideally, we want one that kind of completes this platform, but the mast has to be quite far back.
Okay. I think that is possibly something like that.
That's more like hood style. That's hood style.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not quite what we want. What's the large
French
sec?
One. Large.
Large sec 1. That's the that one. What's that? No, you see that's got the mast in the right position and a little rangefinder at the back. Unfortunately, it's giving us some sponsons for the secondaries, which isn't really helpful. But the boat deck's in roughly the right place as well. So we want that kind. This is the kind of layout we want with the tripod mast aft. It's just let's see what other variants we have on that theme.
So
that was a large sec 1,
and then we've got the 2,
which same, just a bit reworked.
Mm.
Okay, what about the advanced?
Those are like that.
Okay, again, not too bad. What have we got for advanced 2? Because that's advanced 4.
And that's a dinky version.
Yeah, dinky version. Okay, and then with compact we're not going to have. Then we've got the modernized.
That's the.
And now the mast's in the wrong place. This is the hood style one.
And then this one, which I'm not
again
even
in
sure.
the wrong place. No,
but it's definitely not these ones.
Okay, so it's going to be a choice between the advanced and the large. So let's see the advanced.
So that's the large. And that's an advanced.
Okay, so I think this is going to come down to positioning.
Yeah.
So how about we leave the secondary for the moment? Let's get the main battery in.
Yeah.
And see where the main battery leaves us with the
Sure.
our forward bit, because we may not be like aesthetics wise. I kind of want to go with the bigger of the secondaries, but we may not actually have the space for the main battery if we do.
Yeah.
So we've got 16s. And then of course, so B turret is super firing over A.
Yeah.
And the barbette sits quite nicely in the middle.
It's quite a small barbette, isn't it?
Kind of.
Not that small.
Not there.
But it something like that.
That barbette looks a bit too small.
Too small.
The barbette it's about the same. It's not quite the same length. It's not the same width as the turrets are long, but it is a bit bigger than that.
That's the next one up.
Getting closer.
Okay. I think possibly. No, even the very tall is smaller. Possibly Yeah, I think that's probably the closest we're going to get, because the only other one that's kind of compact like that is that one. Oh, mind you,
What's the next size up?
Doesn't look too bad. So that's the very tall. The trouble is, if you go for these, they're pretty
Standard?
chunky.
What about standard?
Standard ones again. Well, no, it does fit.
Well, that might work.
There we go.
Yeah, that's better. I like that.
Doesn't. Oh no, it does. There we go. Just needs shifted about a bit. There we go.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty close to the historic. I mean, the sea turret does come right up to the back of the Barbare, and then the
like
overhang is about half the gun barrel length. So
yeah, it's about.
Yeah, I mean the turret design is a little bit off, but we can live with that.
Yeah. So we definitely have room.
Oh, actually, that's quite a nice bit of placement because if you look at where A turret's gun barrels are, and the breakwater that has been installed there on the forwardmost turret, historically the gun barrel should just be just overhanging that breakwater. Okay, so we can afford to move it forward just a fraction if we want to give ourselves a bit more space.
Like that.
There we go.
There we go, and we can.
And then we can give everything a bit of a shift.
A little bit.
Yep.
Give that just a little bit. Although we've got a 4-weight offset, but
yeah. Well, we haven't put
anything else on yet.
But let's see what happens with. Can we get the large Sec 1 on there? No.
No.
Okay.
Sadly,
that answers that question. So,
there was a bug in one of the earlier versions where you could kind of put that down in the middle of the ship and then move both towers back so that you had the rear tower kind of off in space. But sadly, that no longer an option.
So it's going to be one of the advanced then.
Yeah, whichever one fits. So we can fit the 3.
Now this is interesting. Yeah, now that's interesting because this is going to interfere with our placement of the secondary battery. Even though roughly speaking, so have a zoom out look at the whole hull.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, see that the overall layout is about right. It's going to look a lot better once we get the funnel in. At the moment, it does look a bit weird, and that superstructure still bugs me. But yeah, I think we're kind of there. Overall layout, I think, wise.
Yeah.
That superstructure is just a real. It throws you off.
Yeah, it's kind of those ones where if you squint, or coming out of a squall or or the fog or something.
I have a feeling we are probably going to be playing with the beam a bit to fit the secondaries.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to have a thing. And we'll do funnels and that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have a think. Okay, so shall we move on to the funnels next?
Yes.
Yeah. So
just a single funnel. Ideally, from the looks of it, I'm going to go with either tool funnel 2 or 3 because that's kind of the slab-sided ones, and it should be roughly equidistant. So if we delete the first one you've put in, that's it. It's just the one at the back.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, it's kind of equidistant between the superstructure and the aft mast. So yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one wonderful thing because the on the actual ship, with that gap between the funnel and the bridge tower is actually where the aircraft was launched from,
okay,
and where there were cranes to recover it, and then you had a boat deck aft of the funnel but in front of the mast where we've got 2 stacked boats, and it's just decided it's going to put boats on the sides of the funnel, which is actually where we're going to put the AA armament later on, but never mind.
Speaking of secondary guns, what kind of secondaries did she have?
Right, so as originally fitted, and well, the secondary battery doesn't change, but so as originally fitted, she's got 12 6-inch guns in twin mountings. So she's got 6 twin mountings.
Okay.
And so Yeah, unfortunately, they're 5.25 inch mountings now. Position wise, we should have one pair just fractionally aft of the aft mast, which I don't think we're going to fit. So
Here-ish? Or is that too far back?
that's too far back. It should be almost parallel
All right,
with
so
it, which kind of there,
here.
but that's not going to really work. And then they kind of echelon their way forward up to the funnel. So I think, given the layout, given the layout of the ship, we're going to have to stick one on that little bandstand, even though that's not actually historically accurate.
Be nice.
And we may actually have to go for widening the beam.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Because we can't.
Which we now have the option to.
Yeah, which is
because
really
otherwise
nice.
it's not going to fit.
Yeah, because we really want to squeeze one in there.
Yeah, and then one forward, but
let's see,
at the moment.
Let's see what happens. Because we don't want to do it too much, but hopefully we can. No, this is where the game goes. Nope. You thought that you'd be able to increase the beam to do that, but no. Even if I max it out. No, it's
physically the space there now.
Yeah, there definitely is, but even with the fine placement control,
what happens if we
just not letting me do it?
What happens if we drop it down to twin fives? Again, I know it's not realistic, but we haven't got the particularly realistic.
Oh, that.
Oh, kinda.
Does
maybe
kind of fit. That doesn't
It's
look quite
tucked in.
right, but it's like kind of.
And then what? Can we put another pair just forward of that somewhere?
Yeah, we could.
We can
put them just here.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not brilliant, but it's nowhere near. I think this is the problem with. Again, we haven't got an exact replica of the aft superstructure.
I'm just curious if we can bring the beam back a bit.
That's it.
Just so it's still.
It's about as far back. Yeah, it's gone red again.
Yeah, it still fits. There we go. And does they do still fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and then I suppose the anti-aircraft battery not going to matter too much, is it?
No, but we have been. We basically been kind of using the 2 and the 3 inch to represent those.
Yeah. Well, there are 6 single 4.7 inch, which bizarrely enough would be represented best by the single 5s. Which was its anti-aircraft armament. So those, you got perfectly one there, and then there should be one kind of adjacent to the funnel, roughly where those boats are.
Yeah, not.
But it's not registering. Okay, let's see if we can stick it on the aft superstructure.
No,
no, those mounting points aren't registering.
Let's do it with a 4. Yeah, we could do it with a 4.
Okay. Let's go with that then, and then see if we can get one.
I don't think it had a
over
gun
the
there,
case, but can we get a 4 inch near the funnel?
No, again,
no.
It's just not letting us.
Well, we've got that. Well, we've got 4, and then well, the other pair should be aft of the superstructure completely.
So right back in.
Kind of that, yeah. Okay, again, so it's not perfect, but we do have the 6 heavy AA guns to a degree. Right. And then everything else is just, obviously, as time goes on, you get pom-poms and such.
Yeah, there's a few places you can kind of shove them if we want to. Might as well. Well, that lets you put something near the funnel. You can put a
little one.
2 inch.
Now, the other interesting thing, of course, being that HMS Rodney was the only battleship to successfully torpedo another battleship, is we do get to stick torpedo tubes on this thing.
Hooray! Oh, what kind of torpedoes did
you have? Single underwater tubes, 1 on each side, so just a pair of them. And they've got the mounting point, so we just have to go with that, won't we?
Yeah. And then there's a 4 and aft, but she didn't have.
No, she's just one per side.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I should leave the torpedoes on or off in the actual battles, because
I'd leave them on because Rodney did hit Bismarck, so
yeah. Okay. We'll get to the type of torpedo later.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Well, that's even more fun.
okay, so we should also choose her barbette thickness now that we've got the guns
Yes. So her barbette thickness is 15 inches. So I'd say probably 3 heavy barbettes.
in. Yeah, it sounds like a heavy one.
We've given her crop 3, double hull, reinforced. We have all the Citadel stuff. Right, so we're on to ammunition.
Yeah.
So AP, increased AP ratio. It's actually a balanced standard ratio because the 6-inch guns, they do actually have armor piercing value.
Yeah.
Then
Oops, sorry. That's the wrong one.
Base fused HE. And now is it cap ballistic? Let me just double check that. They do use light shells, but I'm pretty sure it is full. It is definitely fully armor piercing. The question is what particular kind. Okay, so what we've got armor piercing, capped ballistic.
Yeah. And an improved cap ballistic.
Yeah. So. I'm going to go with capped ballistic 1 because they're reasonably good shells.
Yeah.
But they're not unlike the 15-inch guns, for example. They're not replaced later.
Yeah.
They're still using AP Mark 1B from the 1920s all the way through.
Yeah, that makes sense because then with the later ships or the ships that got the advanced kind of gun refits, we can go for the 2.
So she's got light shells. That's one of the features of it, even if it's generally held not to have worked out too brilliantly. Standard shell ammunition, cordite, and then picric acid.
Yeah, we've got dunite as an option now as well. Which
although
didn't used to be an option. That's an American thing, isn't it? Dunite.
Explosive compound D, usually. So stick with picric. Turrets. Let me double check. Okay, so I'd say use electrohydro.
Okay, very nice.
Because historically they are hydraulically run, but they are. I mean, their rate of train isn't brilliant, but the problem is if you say it's electric, if you use the hydraulic only, it's going to be. That's not. Well, I suppose maybe advanced hydraulics. Yeah, okay, let's go with advanced hydraulics.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's probably better. Okay.
Okay.
Enhanced, pretty much it's the standard for these later ships.
Okay. That gives us on the. Oh, that's quite small. On the AP shells, they've got a weight of 1,375 kilos. And
still a little bit off of the 929 historically, but it's about the closest we're going to get.
And a muzzle velocity of 796.
Which is almost near enough spot on.
Oh,
it's actually 797 on a Mark II gun, so...
Okay, and
velocity spot on, just a bit too heavy.
Yeah, rate of fire 1.17 rounds per minute.
That's a little bit slower than the historic 1.5. I suppose the thing, 1 point was it?
Do you want to see what it is on the semi-automatic?
Yeah, so let's see what it gives.
That's 1.49.
Okay, so that's pretty much spot on to what it theoretically should be. She should be. I mean, if you look at the Bismarck battle, for instance, you should be looking at about 1 round every 40 seconds, which would be about 1.5, 1.6. So actually, that's probably the result is accurate, even if she's not actually got semi-automatic mechanisms.
Yeah, well, I mean, the game's estimating the reload time is 40.2 seconds.
Which is pretty much spot
So-
on
so
for her
that-
Bismarck for Rodney's Bismarck performance. So
All right.
yeah,
So
okay.
we'll
Then
stick with
torpedo
that.
propulsion.
Yes. We only have
She
4
actually, yeah.
options.
Now you see the weird thing here is that she doesn't use pure oxygen torpedoes because that's purely the realm of the Japanese. But they're not electric and they're not particularly fast either. But they are longer range than normal because they used in oxygen enriched air.
Okay.
They're kind of a halfway house between standard torpedo propulsion and the Japanese long lances.
That's
So
interesting.
what does the oxygen torpedo actually give us?
So what it'll do is...
Range.
Yeah, it gives you range and also makes them harder to detect.
Which is actually accurate to what the Nelson's torpedoes were. So although it is, again, a little bit of a kludge, acknowledging to the viewers that, the Japanese ones are pure oxygen. There isn't a semi-oxygen option here. So I think we're just going to have to give it oxygen fuel.
Yeah. I'll have to check, but what the campaign techs are. But I think there might be because there are quite a few campaign techs which are things like that just give you a flat boost to your torpedoes. So, but we want to represent it.
And then torpedo size,
Yeah.
right up at the very top. It's actually half an inch too small.
Wow.
24.5-inch monstrosities.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if hitting things with torpedoes is pretty much impossible for a player in Ultimate
It's going to be
Admiral,
absolutely hilarious if it manages it, though.
but the AI might be able to pull this off quite
Yeah.
well. The AI is a lot better with the torpedoes than, well, I am anyway. How many torpedoes did she carry per launcher or total? Is that...
Not a tremendous number. Let me just double check. That's torpedo defenses. Okay, so yeah, probably put probably put that on a slightly reduced ammo because it's not like a destroyer.
So reduced ammo means that they get basically 1 torpedo per launcher.
Okay, no,
with no
then
ability
that's a bit
to reload
unrealistic.
it. Standard
Okay.
gives them a single spare torpedo per launcher, and increased gives them 2 spare torpedoes per launcher.
Okay, that's weird. Fair enough. Well, it's increased then because she did have a stock. I mean, because the thing is, I'm thinking in terms of like compared to a destroyer, the Nelsons don't carry as many torpedoes as a destroyer with 2 or 3 quadruple launchers might.
Yeah,
But she has a room full of them.
yeah.
A room full of single torpedoes. So yeah, it's just one of those bizarre things.
So in this case, she'd be carrying 6 total.
Which is still less than she historically did, but
I suppose
well.
that's fair enough for actually getting them reloaded during the battle.
yeah.
Just out of interest, they claim these torpedoes to have where's the range on these things? There we go, 23.2 kilometer range, which I don't know how that compares to her actual torpedo range, but
Well, her maximum torpedo range at slow torpedo speed setting is 18 kilometers. But to be honest, I don't think either the AI or anyone sane is going to be firing them at that kind of range. So
no. Well, the AI does sometimes, but
yeah, well,
usually when it has about 500 of them, and it just
yes.
drops a massive wall of them in the water at you. Okay, rangefinders. What are we looking at in terms of
So coincidence 4, because she's a 1920s ship.
Yeah, and probably would have had a hydrophone station.
Yeah, she would have had hydrophones, radio. She's got RDF, and radar towards the end of the war, Gen 2.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not got like Vanguard style radar, but it's pretty decent by the end. We're going kind of end of the war standards.
Okay. And then what about her armor?
Right, so she's an all or nothing ship, so it's 14-inch maximum belt thickness. Might save us a bit of weight. Again, with this, we put 1.5 and 1.5 at either end.
Sure.
The main deck is 6.25, or like it's probably 6.3, closest we'll get.
Mm-hmm.
4.5 deck again. Well, actually, it's 3.7. The deck goes down to 3.75, but I don't think that's over the entire length. Let me just double check that. Actually, no, that armor does go fairly far back. I mean, it doesn't go over the front, so the foredeck, yeah, will be four. Well, the foredeck will be what, like 1.5 splinter proof.
Mm-hmm.
But the aft deck is going to average 3.
Okay. Yeah, can do that.
Conning tower is 14 inches thick.
Mm-hmm.
Superstructure again is just 1.5 because it's just a little bit splinter proof. Then we have what we've got, a turret armor.
Yeah.
So the gun turrets are 16 inches on the face.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 inches elsewhere.
Okay. Pretty well protected turret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's designed to brawl.
Yeah. And
then the secondary turrets are only 1 inch thick. And the 4 inch they're actually open gun mounts, but with gun shields, half an inch or something. I don't know.
0.1 or something. Just,
yeah.
It's there.
Yeah. Well, saved us a bit of weight. She has a massive weight offset.
Yeah, huge, which is not really what you expect, but that's probably the funnel.
Yes.
Being so far back, because what the game is doing is it's going, you put
sticking
the funnel
engines
there,
even
so
further.
the engines are here.
Yeah, which is not actually
which
accurate.
Is not right, but
we might save a bit of weight because her range should be, what have we mentioned? Oh no, her range is in kilometers, so her range should be 13,000 kilometers. So we actually need to put the range up a bit.
We can either go for 12.2
go with
or
that. Yeah,
14. 12.2.
Go for the 12.2.
Okay.
So we're a bit overweight. I mean, if we move the funnel just a fraction forward, does that help any with the aft offset?
No, that's it.
Not really.
Yeah, a little bit, a few percent.
But yeah, so for aesthetics, we can move it like one block for one mounting point forward or something. But that's about as far as.
There we go. It's surprising because you've got all these guns at the front, but yeah, it'll be the position of the towers right at the back that's causing it. But I mean, we saw with the Strasbourg that these weight offsets are not the end of the world.
No,
it's just going to mean that she's not as accurate as if she was.
Now, with the ship being overweight, does that mean we have to increase the displacement in order to get it to launch?
Yes, annoyingly. She's not that far over, is she?
No.
42 roughly. I make that. Yeah.
Yeah. 42. Although the weight is going to go up as we put the
as we put the displacement up, which is a little bit irritating.
Chasing our tails.
Yeah, there we go. 45,708, which is a bit chunky, but it's not a million miles off.
No, the hull's not increased in length all that much.
No, it's a weird one how the displacement slider works now that we have beam and draft.
Interesting. I'm just wondering, with the overall increase in hull size, can we trim the beams slightly more, or has it not really?
So it should. This basically just changes the displacement and the length. I don't think.
Okay, so the beam is fixed. Because it used to obviously grow with the beam went up with the displacement as well.
But I think looking at that gun turret, that's
not going to help.
Pretty much exactly in the same place that it was.
Well, it's recognisably a Nelson.
Yep, definitely.
Just a shame about the superstructure, but there you go.
Well, we can write a set of detailed notes for devs about what superstructures they should add.
we can close our eyes and believe.
Yeah, I mean, from that far away, you can kind of squint and go, oh yeah, that's a Nelson class. You could have a look at her underway actually, it's not too far off. I mean, it's a kind of awkward design in a lot of ways, isn't it? That
Yeah, and to be fair, to get her down to ostensibly her displacement, they did have to do a lot of fiddling. Like the fact that basically any water, including the water included in some of the anti-torpedo spaces, wasn't included in her standard displacement. So the fact that obviously since the game isn't cheating, she's coming in a bit overweight. I mean, she probably wasn't that overweight, but it's probably an approximation of what may have actually been the case.
Yeah, and it's worth saying to those of you watching, she's not really getting much advantage from that extra weight. In fact, that's just pure bulk. That's just going to make her a little bit harder to handle. Like she doesn't have anything fitted to her that she wouldn't otherwise. But I'm interested to see how she does. Actually, I do like the all forward battery, and of course
I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, that's one thing the game does not simulate. Was a lot of her weight saving was because the main armor belt was kind of here, wasn't it? And this was designed to shorten the armor belt, which is not something we can control in the game. So
Yeah, and there was a lot of the gun, not all, but a lot of the gun problems were down to the fact that they started off with the triple 16-inch design, which was supposed to go on the G3 battle cruisers, and they shaved and shaved and shaved and shaved away at it in order to get the ship under the 35,000 ton limit, which, let's say, it caused a lot of problems thereafter. But when you get, obviously in the game, it's just, here's a triple 16-inch turret. It's not going to do all that shaving for you.
No. But I'm pretty happy with that. She seems to go all right as well. I'm not noticing anything too bad from that offset. I should see how she turns, actually. Oh, she turns fine. Yeah, there's no huge problem there. Yeah, interesting vessel. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one in Division 3. But until then, I'll say thank you very much for helping out with the build, and yeah, I'll see everybody watching again for some more Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Bye for now.
Bye.